This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Aqib Fiaz over Zoom. Aqib, how are you keeping?
I'm good, Andy, mate. How are you, pal?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to catch up. We just had a brief conversation with off camera. Unfortunately, not in kind of happier circumstances. Your campmate Carl Frampton succumbing to a stoppage defeat this past weekend. Obviously, Jamie throwing in the towel in the sixth round. Just kind of start off with that fight, Akib. Just going back to it, what was your thoughts on Carl's defeat?
For me, it was just hard to watch. Not from a boxing perspective. Yeah, it was. It was a hard fight anyway. But just because Carl's such a nice, genuine person and he's a friend of mine and he's done so much for me. Such a generous guy, nice, kind guy as well. You don't want to see that really. And for me, the first couple of rounds, it was hard. It looked like he wasn't He wasn't really in the fight at all. And then the fourth round was really successful, wasn't it? He caught Herring, and I thought he won that round. And then the fifth round, it looked like that again. And then he got put down because he was a bit off balance. And I think that for me, I think that played a part in the ending as well. Because I felt like he had to, get back into the fight, and he felt probably a bit more desperate. And then obviously the finishing was just horrible to watch. And for me, Jamie made the right decision, 100%. And obviously Carl would have been upset, but I think when he probably does already know that it was the right decision, definitely.
Now the fight has passed, I know you do a lot of sparring with Carl, and especially in the build up to this fight in particular. But now the fight has gone, what was the game plan?
To be fair, obviously Jamie was spot on in what he said. He said Herring, I think they thought Herring struggled with the weight, and I think he does, but not as much as what they thought. So I think, him fading later on in the fight. Obviously, we didn't see it, but maybe he might have. It was always the game plan. The first couple of rounds would have been hard, and because of the size difference, it was always going to be hard for Carl to get the early rounds. But I think the plan was just to sort of keep digging to the body maybe, and wait for him to tire towards the end. But obviously, we never got there. So, but it's boxing and it's life, isn't it? So it happens, and it's not the first time you're going to see that happen, and it's not the last. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It's boxing, it's life, and Carl's had an amazing career. He's done so well, and I think he was daring to be, like great, one like the best ever. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't to be, but in my opinion, he still is. He's still great. He's still going to go down in the history books. And he's, for me, he's a gem of a guy as well.
He certainly is. He's a very nice guy there, as you say. Just one final thing on the fight before we touch on a couple of other things. What did you make of the size difference in general, though? You could see him there. Jamel looked massive at the weight. Carl, naturally, he isn't a super featherweight, but moving up. What did you make of it, seeing them both in there?
I think, obviously, out the way, you could see the size difference, couldn't you? He was bigger, Herring, but he didn't look as big as he did on fight night. He looked massive on fight night. And he looked like he rehydrated well as well. So obviously, I know he was talking about his nutritionists and stuff as well. So they must do it right. Do you know what I mean? And you could see he was massive on the night, way too big. And because he's a southpaw as well, it makes it even harder. No one likes southpaws. And a tall southpaw is even worse. You know what I mean? So it's probably the worst. And I think he's probably the biggest super featherweight as well. Carl could have fought, and Carl's not really a super feather, is he? So it was a big ask, and we're just disappointed really, and it's not nice to see. But it would have been a fairy tale ending, but obviously it's real life in it, so it is what it is. And hopefully Carl can look back on his career and be proud, because we're certainly proud of him anyway. So it is what it is.
Akib, you mentioned earlier on, obviously, you felt it was the right decision for Jamie to throw in the towel in that sixth round. Just talk about that, because certainly a lot of people have reacted positively to that and said it was the right call over social media.
Yeah, I think Jamie's done it in the past as well. Jamie, for me, is the most caring person I've ever met. And before I knew Jamie, and I was a fan of his fighting, and you would never think you know him, don't you, Andy? He's the nicest person you'll ever meet, soft and so caring. But it was definitely the right decision. And to be honest, any more, it's boxing, it's dangerous. Any more shots could have been life changing. you're only one shot away from it, aren't you? Really, in the end, and I felt like he made the right decision. Definitely, Carl might have, I think from a fan point of view, if you don't know Carl and if you maybe want an entertaining fight, you want the fight to carry on, Carl to dig through, and you seen that against Warrington. He did. He was hurt numerous times, and I think if Carl got hurt 100 times on Saturday, he would have kept coming back because he was that determined. But at the end of the day, Jamie's there, isn't he, to look after him, and for me, he did exactly that, and he looked after him.
Obviously, after the fight, Carl confirmed he's going to step away from the sport now. Aqib, just your thoughts on that, and the time you've spent together. What have you learned from him?
Yeah, it's definitely for me. It's a good time for him to walk away. I think he could probably come back and have big fights again, but he's got a family at home, and that's what it's all about. Carl's sacrificed so much throughout his career. And I've seen it firsthand. He's in camp for 12 weeks, sometimes longer. Like, I think the whole of 2020, me and Carl spent in the gym in camp together. I live around the corner. It's all right for me. I come home to my family afterwards, and it's nice. Carl was going back to a hotel or an apartment or Jamie's garage, and he's alone. And I see him talk to his kids on FaceTime and his wife, and you can see how much it breaks his heart that he's not there. And to be honest, now he can be at peace, I think, because it is stressful being a fighter. You're always thinking about what's next and your training and everything. Whereas now Carl can sort of relax and be with his family, and I know that they love him as well so much because you see it on like the little moments where you see him talking to his kids and his wife on FaceTime, and you see the love he has for him. But he knows he's there to do a job, and he spent practically most of his life, his boxing career away from home because he's always trained in England, I think. So it'd be nice for him to just go back home and be there for them now, and I think he'll appreciate it, and they'll appreciate it as well.
And for you yourself, kind of the benefits you've had to be able to work with Carl for these past few years?
You know what? It's invaluable experience now. Everything I do in my career, I owe a lot to Carl, most of it, because I've learned so much. I've never been to the States before, and I think in 2019 I went 3 times with him. He took me there, kept me in a house with him. So much experience, not just in the ring, because in the ring he was an unbelievable fighter anyway, probably the best I've ever been in there with. He taught me so much, but even just outside the ring, just about the mentality of a fighter as well, because that's a big part of the game as well that a lot of people don't see. And for me, someone who's as experienced as Carl, I've had some of my best boxing memories with him, and I'll thank him forever for it. You know what I mean? And to call him a friend, I remember I must have been about 11 or 12 watching Carl on TV, and to say like I went away with him, and the experiences he gave me, I couldn't have ever imagined it. But it happened, and some of my best boxing memories are with Carl, so I'll cherish them forever.
And then just to touch on another man who's recently joined up with yourselves and Jamie, Kulakmet picking up his victory as well, stoppage victory. What did you make of his win?
Yeah, you know what? He's an animal. He was only at the gym, I think, for 2 months. He obviously can't really speak English at the moment, and we're trying to teach him a little bit, and we're having a bit of a laugh with him. But he's fit. He's fit right in, to be honest. And you'd never think it when he first come, but he's a dangerous fighter. I have watched him spar, and his fight the other day was he was stepping up against an undefeated lad who's had 20 fights. It's only his 3rd, wasn't it? So it's a massive step up, but he wants to be a world champion within, I think, 6-7 fights, and I genuinely believe he will be at the light middleweight division. It's a deep division anyway, as it is, but he's a dangerous fighter, and I've seen it. The things I've seen him do in sparring, just a good fighter, is like, he's had him on the verge of crying. Do you know what I mean? In sparring, and that's how dangerous he is. So I look forward to that. I look forward to watching his career, and I look forward to learning things of him as well. Because in Kazakhstan they've got a different way of training, and it's good for me because I get to nick things from him as well.
And Aqib, just moving forwards and onto yourself, have you got anything in the pipeline with regards to when you'll be back out?
No, I hear that there's a fight camp again this year. I think I'll be on that. Obviously, Ramadan's coming up, starts next week. So for me, I'm not going to be out of the gym. I'm always in the gym anyway. I'll be in the gym, but obviously sparring and stuff won't be happening. So I'll be taking over, staying fit, and then I'll be ready for fight camp hopefully.
Have you got anybody in your eye, kind of your eye line, or anybody you'd like to step in the ring with who you've got in your sights?
No, not really. Nothing where obviously it'll be. I'm imagining in fight camp, like the slogan is no easy fights. So I don't think it's going to be a big step up again. Obviously, last time with Baker was a good win, and you've got to realise I'm only 21, 6 fights in, so I've got time on my side really. It's about taking the right fights at the right time for me, and I think if I get the right fights at the right time, I'll go all the way. But obviously that's my management's job. Steve Wood and Jamie and obviously Eddie, they can sit down and they can talk and they can pick who I fight. I hear stories of other prospects and other pro fighters, saying no to opponents and going fiddling through a different opponents. But I can honestly say since I've turned pro, we've never turned anyone down. Like if we got offered an opponent, it was bang, you're in with him. Even my second pro fight, I was 19 and I boxed Ben Fields. It was a good fight. Saw him against Sam Maxwell the other day. He's a good fighter. At a few divisions above me as well, and I boxed him on like 1 day notice because my original opponent pulled out. So we went in with him on a day's notice, and I was 19, and it was a hard fight, good learning fight. And that's what James always wanted me in, learning fights. And I feel like I'm learning a lot. And my last fight was probably my best performance. I've never boxed like that in the amateurs. I was always a pressure fighter going forward. I never could stick to a game plan, but I did it for 8 rounds this time. So I feel like I'm improving all the time. So and like you say, I'm always in the gym. So I feel like I'm in the right place as well to learn.
I mean, as you mentioned, Ben Fields, he certainly is a tough man, and many people would have seen him with his bout with Sam Maxwell. But just to touch on Kane Baker, obviously a past opponent of yours or your most recent fight, he lost to Yusuf Kamari on the last Matchroom show for White Povetkin 2 bill. Just your thoughts on that?
No, to be fair, I felt like he was out of his depth really. Yusuf Kamari is a good title level fighter, and he's boxed before there, and I think for Kane, to be honest, I feel like one thing I thought he looked a bit like he'd overtrained maybe, because you got to remember he's probably been in camp since our first scheduled fight was August last year, and he's not really had time out, I don't think. So yeah, but like you say, you can't take nothing away from Kamari as well. It was a good performance. I was impressed. So it is what it is. It's a good win for him. I don't know about Baker, what he does next, but he's done really well for himself since that fight, and yeah, he's a good fighter too. I respect him.
Do you think about between yourself and Yusuf Kamari could happen down the line at some point?
Yeah, possibly. We're both the same weight, around about the same weight anyway. So possibly, yeah, definitely. Like I said, all comers. We don't really turn anyone down now.
All right, Aqib, we'll leave it there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. But I'm going to leave a final word to yourself. For everybody who's going to continue to follow you and support you and follow your journey this year, what would you like to say to them?
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. I've got a good feeling about it. Stay tuned, guys. News will be with you guys as soon as I know. So I look forward to the year. I'm in the gym all the time, and thanks for your support.
Aqib, it's a pleasure to catch up with you as always. I look forward to seeing you back in the ring, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Nice one, Andy. Thank you.